All right. Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Black Tower podcast. This time with video because we finally found the Terran Grial that does that. Of course, I am Andrew, one of your hosts, and we will introduce everybody on the screen. But first, you can see that I am joined by my other co-host. If you guys want to go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Greetings, salutations. It is I, your Sorovan Mahale, Mr. Josh.
Salam and good evening to you. My name is Daniel, and I am your Aman Khan Mahal. I hold the flag straight in battles and make sure that it's visible.
And he's good at holding the flagpole.
The best part is when you wave it back and forth and start singing French songs. It's great.
So we are the Black Tower podcast, and this is the technically third YouTuber panel we've been able to put together. So super excited to get into this. But before we get too far in, just to make sure nobody can ever say they were ever spoiled, even by somebody's name, Daniel, why don't you go ahead and slap on some protection for us?
Indeed. So everyone, this is definitely a situation. The topic that we are talking about tonight is going to get into some late game stuff. This is going to be whole series spoilers. If you have not yet read the series, you might hear names of characters that you don't even know yet, let alone information on said characters that you have not been introduced to.
Like my intro?
But definitely, if you have not read all of the series, you are in danger of being spoiled. If you've read most of it and you don't really mind spoilers, definitely feel free to stick around. But if you are very, very much against spoilers, I highly recommend go finish the series. You'll be doing yourself a favor, both on spoilers and just because you'll have finished an amazing series. So have fun.
Accurate.
Now, so they don't have to remain quiet any longer. And so that we can finally introduce them, because I'm sure you've never heard of any of these people. It's definitely not at all.
We have the
sarcasm.
We
Josh,
have just the freshest of faces.
Right.
They've only been doing Wheel of Time stuff for a little bit of time. It's not like they have years of experience between them.
Josh, who do we have with us?
We have three super awesome folks with us. Three people that three people that we've been wanting to work with for a long time now, and we're all super kind of fanboying here, but we're holding it together. So we got three folks with us.
Andrew's already worked with a couple of these people, and
That's
the
true.
other two of us have been very jealous.
Guys.
So we have from the Reading the Pattern, we have Rebecca, whom is an amazing person. Please introduce yourself, Rebecca.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here again, and especially now that Daniel and Josh are here too. Everybody's here. And so I am Rebecca. I have a YouTube channel, Reading the Pattern. I do a lot of really in-depth, super spoiler-filled reread videos for the series. So I'm in the Great Hunt now. And then I try to mix it up and do a lot of TV show content as well, and I try to do a lot of that spoiler free, or at least spoiler light. So I try to do a good mix of content, and I'm keep mixing it up because I'm just trying to find what people are interested in.
Truth.
Because you gotta. It's just the way it has to be. Following Rebecca is Recappa, and if you guys have never seen an episode with Recappa Sedai, you need to correct yourself because they're some of the greatest things in the world. Recappa Sedai, please grace us with your intro.
I mean, thank you for that. Yes, I am Recappa Sedai. I do Wheel Talk on YouTube. It's a blast. We have a lot of fun. We play with Legos. We recap the Eye of the World. We have all kinds of fun. It's a blast. I'm honored to be here. Thanks for having me. Love your podcast.
Oh, thank you. That is very sweet of you. And we'll give you that $20 later. Thanks.
It's all good. We're WOT creators, We get it.
And last but certainly not least is our good friend from the Fantology podcast, Steven, whom I would like to just throw out, has a really awesome tournament / bracket on the greatest fantasy duos of all time that we fully intend to win. So just if you want to add that into your intro, that'd be great.
we did just make good strides on our effort to go ahead and win it. So,
and you guys have won in the past. I don't. Which one did you win? Like it was top series.
I think it was villains.
Fantasy villains. Yeah.
Yeah, we got villains.
Yeah, and we
that
just
makes sense,
won our whole today or yesterday on the duos. We won our bracket, though. Of course, we have certainly not won the whole thing yet.
Yet.
Yes.
Wait. So who are any of the top fantasy villains, Wheel of Time villains? We should know.
I think Padan Fane was in our Wheel of Time.
Okay.
Villains. Yeah,
it was Padan Fane was there.
Okay.
Yeah, we did it. We did it. We done good.
That's good. I respect. Yeah. He should be up there. Yeah.
All right, go, Steven. Tell us all about it.
And clearly, that was very scientific, and so whichever villains won are, undisputably the top villains.
There was Professor Umbridge was on there too.
Oh,
yes,
and the White Witch from Narnia.
Yes, that's right.
Yes, those are the top three. Yeah. So in addition to running Twitter polls every month, I do run a podcast with 4 of my old friends: Ben, Josh, Ryan, and Jake. And we're kind of into YouTube a little bit. We might be going into it a bit more as well, and just kind of starting to get into the community. We are not primarily Wheel of Time podcasts, unfortunately. I know, a little bit of a black sheep here, but we cover whatever fantasy books. So we've covered everything from Lord of the Rings. We have 5 episodes on Wheel of Time now. We're making our way through with the first time reader. We're doing a lot of Dresden right now, so a lot of fun series, and we're having fun doing it. So check out our podcast, and excited to be here with you guys. It's gonna be awesome.
Awesome.
Wait, Black Sheep, is that just another better name for Dark Friend?
Well, it is now. Okay, well, so those are our people. They're awesome, you're awesome, we're all awesome, and we're getting more awesomer as the evening progresses. Andrew, you want to tell the people why we're here in the first place, other than to stare into this thing and drink?
I thought that was it. I thought we were literally just going to be quiet and stare into the camera and drink.
All right, staring contests. Everybody pair off. Let's go.
As fun as that would be, the people might lose interest after a few minutes.
So what we're doing, you've seen this with the last one that will have aired by the time this goes out. As of the time of this recording, it hasn't, but it will be. This is a round robin-esque style panel that we probably will try to do pretty regularly. We're going to use the Southern interpretation of regularly to mean anything. So
mostly if we're lucky enough to actually get content creators enough to do enough of these.
Yeah. What we do is we try to get at least 3, for these being YouTuber panels, we try to get 3 people that YouTube mainly or dabble in YouTube, but we will pull in people that don't really YouTube by any means. I'm more than happy to have just about anybody here. And collectively we'll choose a topic, something that is broad enough where we can all talk about it, but small enough where we can kind of maintain it in a reasonable podcast length episode, kind of, that'll just be on video. And then we'll take like 10 minutes to talk about each person, what they're bringing into the discussion, their view on the topic, their interpretation of it, whatever the topic may be, and then kind of go through in a bit of an order, let everybody say what they think about it. And if it's something that can be voted on or agreed or disagreed with, which is almost everything, the only time that doesn't happen is when we all kind of agree, like, yeah, we don't think we can vote on this one yet. We'll kind of vote and see if people agree or disagree. I don't know if we'll be able to do that as much with this one.
Duck sauce really is terrible.
But so that's the kind of how the concept works. But
sorry, you misspelled Gawain.
You. But now that you know the concept, you need to know what the topic is. And Daniel, I think you have that information.
I do, yes.
Yeah, what are we talking about?
Our topic tonight, each of our lovely guests, as well as each of the members of the Black Tower podcast, have racked our brains to try and come up with what we consider either the best or worst, so the top 1 or the bottom 1 character arc in the entire series. So that is taking a particular character from beginning to end, whether that is the series end or their end if it ends up being earlier than the end of the series, and sort of classifying them in rankings of what we think are the I don't know, maybe most compelling or most impressive, most relatable, whatever it is that you think is the most important thing for a character arc, whether they, that particular character was used in the best way, the worst way, or something, as far as what you feel that particular character had going for them or not going for them.
Yep.
And then as the round robin, we will all get a chance to respond. So if somebody says that, Paran Fane had the worst character arc in the entire series, everyone else will be like, you're full of shit. But we'll get a chance to go ahead and respond and say, what we think a little bit in, a little bit of a back and forth that we will have around. And then again, depending on the discussion, we may or may not vote as far as whether we agree or disagree with the initial assessment that they are the best or worst character arc.
I'm in.
So
I'm
with
all
that,
in.
everybody knows kind of what to expect and how this is going to go. So let's go ahead and dive into it. And Steven, my friend, you're up first.
Honored number one.
Okay,
No
so
pressure.
I was told I could mention my worst and my best. So briefly,
Correct.
I'm going to say that I would have said Gowan for worst, but that appears to be way too popular. So, I'm not going to do that.
I'm sorry, you just used Gawain and popular in the same sentence, and so...
Probably in the only proper context, though.
It's true.
Yeah, I think Gowan should have gone. He should have gone back. He should have turned to the dark side. Would have been a much better story arc. But we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about my best character arc, and this person is Swan Sanche. Right?
Ooh.
So our favorite Amerlin, or not Amerlin. So Swan came from nothing, right? Very low beginnings, humble beginnings, as a fisher girl, right? Right, as we know. She became the youngest Amerlin ever. Fisher person, sure. And she became the youngest Amerlin. I think she was like 30 or something. Maybe fact check me on that. But she was initially intended to just be like a token Amerlin seat, and they were going to make use of her. I can see Daniel is fact checking my 30 right now.
You asked. I'm not going to let you down.
And she also had this fantastic subplot with Moraine looking for the Dragon Reborn after they heard the prophecy, very compelling. And then halfway through the series, more than halfway, a third of the way through the series, she gets deposed and has everything taken from her, including her access to Sidar, right? She can no longer channel. And rather than just die or lose, all motivation to continue living, she uses her quest for vengeance to fuel her passion to get back, to continue living. She is eventually healed from being stilled, and she uses her political game, which she never lost, in order to keep the Rebel Aes Sedai going. She eventually kind of gets back into a position of somewhat power, and then she has a great tragic love story with Gareth Bryn. Right, one of my better love stories, I think, from the series. I didn't love all the romance from Wheel of Time. I'm sorry to say. I don't know if that's a popular opinion or not, but this one was good, right? I mean, they had a good connection, and it was kind of this on and off thing, and then eventually they kind of die together after she bonds him, and after he feels her death, he goes insane and loses it. So that's my Swan character arc. She goes from bottom to top to bottom, and she's working her way back up when it finally ends.
From the bottom, now we're here.
Great arc, up and down. It's got everything you need in an arc.
Well,
right,
so by the way, fact check. You could not be more correct. She was absolutely 30 when she became.
It's almost like I looked it up before coming on the podcast.
That was smart, because then when somebody else looked it up, you look like a very smart human being.
Well played. He did that on purpose. He's playing Dice Damar.
Right? There we go.
Right, but Daniel, you get first chomp at this.
Indeed. You know what? I definitely would not agree with best, certainly. I mean, it would be kind of a lame round robin if we all agreed on the best and worst, so that makes sense. But at the same time, I definitely am with you on Swan having a pretty good arc. I would actually disagree a little. I thought the Gareth Bryn and Swan Sanche romance was actually a little forced. But at the same time, I didn't dislike it, even if I felt like it was a little forced. And so definitely still a good arc. And she learns a lot, which I really appreciate. She starts highly overbearing and kind of obnoxious, and definitely softens up and becomes a lot more reasonable of a person and a character. So she's definitely up there with me. I would not decry you one of the best character arcs. But I do disagree with a couple of things in your assessment of why. But I'm definitely in with you that is a serious honorable mention as far as best character arcs.
All right. Recappa, what do you think?
I love this so much. I love this so much. I haven't been able to talk about this. I mean, my thoughts of what best arc and series is aside, this Swan conversation is so fascinating to me because the truth is she goes through a huge arc because she gets stilled. And we don't see we're spoiler cool, right?
We're good.
Yeah.
Series.
Spoil the shit out of it.
Here's the thing with Swan. It's a fascinating arc because, like you said, you're right. Like it's incredible to see her gain what this meant, and it's a window into how much Sidar means to the women who can channel Sidar, and it really is amazing. And when we see the moment Nynaeve heals her, I just did this video, like it's incredible. And if we're talking about arcs, Swan has to be included in the conversation because we have this incredible experience of this woman who is so strong, who's like, you know what? I've been stilled. Nothing that happens can fix this. Nothing. And she's only going along with what the Aes Sedai have told her for thousands of years. And then it turns out not to be true. And it really is empowering because she was the Amerlin. And we get this idea of not only the Aes Sedai, but the Amerlin doesn't know everything. And it is an incredible arc. But do I think it's the best arc? That's complicated because what I need, I mean, like, if we're talking about the best arc, because Swan is a great character for this conversation, but the truth is, she goes up to Nynaeve and she says, hey, you healed me. I used to be a lot stronger, now I'm not. Can you heal me a little bit better? And that's what she does. That is what she does.
That is what she does. Something wrong.
It is what she does. And Swan is smart. Swan knows. She's like, if there are two people who can help me out, it's Nynaeve and Egwene. So she goes to those two characters. And to one, she's like, can you heal me better? And to the other, she's like, can you maybe be the Amerlin and I will teach you? And it is her thing but if it is an incredible arc. And and I mean, I am twisted on what the best arc is, but Swan, there's a good argument to be made because the truth is Swan's smart and Swan knows the Aes Sedai and Swan knows Nynaeve and Egwene, and everything she does throughout the series, she's planning it. And she knows that she's probably never going to be the Amerlin again. She's probably never going to be looked at as a normal Aes Sedai again, but she can latch on board to these two. And I respect her for it. Like, on one hand, I'm like, Swan, we've been reading these levels of how strong everyone is, and you're not very strong now. And, you know, we have to understand why you're still in the game. And it matters because Swan is the reason Egwene becomes the Amerlin she is. And so anyway, before this whole thing, I was like, there's no way I'd be like, Swan is the best arc in the series. But now that I'm hearing it, I'm like, you know what? Swan is the one. Swan is the one who accepts who she is and what she can do. And she really does accept it. And
happens a lot on this show.
Yeah, and whatever you think of Egwene, whatever you think of Nynaeve, Swan grows in a way where she gets this thing taken away from her, and then it's given back. And even if it's not given back fully, she knows how to use it to her advantage. And I'm kind of changing my answer. I'm sort of on board. Swan. Swan has the best arc. That was not my original answer.
All right,
I did not
all
come
right.
in here expecting to answer that.
That's why we're here.
But I get it. Swan, honestly, Swan's the one who goes through the most and changes, and in the end is like, I get it. I didn't understand this before, now I do. And then, I mean, you know, we're spoilers, so I'm not going to go into that, but it's a little wasted.
We know what you're saying.
Yeah.
But Swan cares about the characters that we care about, and she cares about the abilities that we care about. And that's why I love Swan so much.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No,
Recappa rambling, she does that. Just, ugh.
I love what you said
Epic.
about the, you know, she goes back to Nynaeve and says, hey, you know that thing that was impossible that you did?
Yeah.
Can you do it better?
Yeah.
Can you do it better this time?
Yeah.
But
So
it's
Andrew-
honestly like it's really why we kind of love Swan, because through Egwene and Nynaeve, it's this thing of the Aes Sedai are like this. The Aes Sedai will never accept the Aes Sedai think this way. And we get Swan come up to Nynaeve and be like, can you do this? Or to Egwene and be like, can you do this? Because it would change a lot. And we get to see through Nynaeve and Egwene the change that is happening to the Aes Sedai during the last battle.
Yeah.
And I think Swan is a great vessel for that. I think Swan, part of why I love the Wheel of Time is I love reading about how the Aes Sedai start to figure out, oh, this thing we were doing was wrong. And Swan gets it. So if we're talking about arcs, I'm changing my answer. I agree that the answer is Swan.
We're early on.
I agree.
And Recappa
She goes
has
through the
already
most.
changed
All right.
her story.
I'm
So,
killing it.
Andrew, can you add to this, or are we done?
What do you
well,
got?
I mean,
I think I won.
I definitely have stuff to say.
It's
So-
true.
For
I
me,
mean, in the game of character arcs, you either win or you die. So, I mean,
So Andrew,
so I'm going to try to keep
No,
my
we're
remarks
gonna have to
relatively short because we are over time on this specific topic because we got a lot to get through. But for me, I tried to take it as little as I could, removing as much of my impressions and interpretations of the character away from looking at their arc overall. What happens to them? What do they go through? How does the character transform? Because there's plenty of things I can't stand about Suan. There's plenty of things I love about Suan. But her arc, for me, I almost want to say very stagnant and cliche. It's, you meet somebody that starts at the top, you watch them fall to the bottom, they come kind of the way back up, and then they die. Now, there's things that she does that are very important. There's things she does that are detrimental, that are not very helpful. And the secrecy that we see early on is a lot of the reason why we wind up with a White Tower that has Elida in charge. Now, necessary for the plot, agreed. Yeah, I think it is. But for her character arc, it's the same as a lot of people. A lot of people have that, they either start from the bottom or they start from the top. If we go back to her origin story before the pages actually start, that where they rise up from nothing and then they fall and then they kind of start rising back up. And she does important things. She does good things. I think it's a good arc. I think that her entire arc was shot in the foot with a tactical nuke by the time that they decided to start putting her and Gareth Bryn together. Because I think that part of her arc is absolute trash, and I want to burn almost every page with it on it. Because I can't stand the relationship.
Tell us how you feel.
that's
But,
that's an
So,
escalation.
that's
Can we-
what
alright,
I'm
is
gonna
that-
say
I,
about this.
all right, back to it.
Rebecca, you're next.
Yeah, Rebecca,
Okay.
it's your turn. What are we doing?
Okay, so
What's
before
happening?
I talk about overall the arc for Swan, I'll just agree that I don't like the Swan and Gareth romance either.
Man,
Really,
everyone hates it. Everyone hates my take here.
really don't like it. Anyway, but that's not really the discussion. So that has no bearing on whether she has.
But it's kind of the discussion.
Well, kind of, yeah. But so what I will say about Swan, so one of the things I looked at when I was like trying to figure out, okay, I got to limit my characters that I'm going to consider for this because there's so many good ones. And I think, you know, all these arcs can be sort of cliche, right? You know, you start low, you end up high, you start high, you fall down, whatever. But it's all in the execution. Like a character to have a good arc has to undergo some major development and it has to feel justified and at the different steps. So I looked at like how many viewpoints the different characters had. I'm like being extra nerdy here. Okay. So I'm like, all right, I probably shouldn't really think about characters that have like 5 viewpoints in the whole series. Right. So I like arbitrarily cut it off. If you had less than 20, I'm like, all right, I'm not going to consider this for this discussion. And Swan was one who like fell just below. And I was like, oh, should I go a little bit lower? Because Swan's arc is pretty good at 8, like she's like 18 viewpoints or something in the entire series. So I will say that's kind of impressive about her, right? That she does have like a real arc that is compelling with very few viewpoints. So if you compare that to like Rand that has like 200 and whatever, you know, that says something that she did have a pretty well written arc for 18 viewpoints in the whole series.
Nice. I like, you know, there's something to be said for a character that has a very potent presence. Their presence may be small, but it is very potent.
Dynamite
Which
comes
sounds
in small
weird
packages.
to say that.
It's
So,
so true.
as far as it goes when it comes to Swan Sanche, I think she does a number of things that are very, very important to the series, which nobody can deny. I mean, she was the Amaryllis. She's the one who put Moraine in play to find the Dragon Reborn, blah, blah, blah. But that's not what I'm referring to. What I'm referring to specifically, what I think may be probably her 2 most badass moments. And they both address her adaptability. One is when she is stilled, which still gives me shivers. That's just a terrible thing.
It still gives you shivers.
When she gets stilled, most people are like, my life is over. I'm done. Not Swan Sanche. She's like, no, my anger and my hatred is going to be the fuel that runs this engine. And I refuse to die until I'm able to make sure that whatever happened to me was taken care of. Like, to me, that's an extremely badass action to take.
For sure.
I absolutely love that. And the second thing that Swan does is she is a teacher to Egwene on how to become a good Amaryllis. Now, Egwene has her own perspectives and points of view that give her that allow her to stand on the shoulders of giants, if I can quote, you know, I think it was Hawking that said that. But Swan, one of the things that she learns late in the game, is she goes, you know, how many times are people who can channel small amounts disregarded and ignored because, well, they're very low on the pecking order. We don't really care about them. But how many times do they manipulate and influence things without even being seen? And Swan learns this and embraces this. And what I get from Swan as a character as a whole is an extreme talent for adaptability, which Egwene also has. And Swan is able to amplify Egwene's abilities. So when I come down to it, does Swan have the greatest character arc in the series? I'm not going to say she's number 1, but I am going to say she's top 5 because Swan is a force to be reckoned with. She is a damn good character in this series.
Yep.
All right.
Nice.
Well,
I'm with you.
Daniel, yours is next because I don't think that we can vote on.
Yeah, no, I
No, we all
definitely
agree.
don't
You
So
convert
it
it
sounds
one.
like
Kinda like,
everybody's
"Eh,
kind of
come
like
on."
voting, or at least like giving
I
their
live for
their feelings on it in their responses, which I think
Steven's
is
already converted one, and I will not allow more to be converted. Not here. Not with less than 13.